So when I look around this audience, especially because I've been in the community, it's a little harder than it was in Web 2.0 when everyone actually used their face as their avatar, and now we have very different things. But I have a good sense of a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of creative energy in the room. From a big brand perspective, Todd, when you first heard about NFTs, you know, as a dude, and I think you're very on the pulse, both of you are, hence why I wanted you here, but how did it first land? Did you have the cynical point of view of like, I don't get it, like why would somebody own it? Did it immediately hit? Where did you go the first time you kind of understood this thing is happening? You got your perspective. I just want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy?
Yeah, I think like all of you here, you know, you see the potential for it. You see, you know, hey, this will be the DMV years from now, the ticket, all the different applications of the technology. But then you also look at it, again, as a marketer, consumer first, and I look at the experience right now that it's so early days. The consumer experience is actually pretty clunky, right? You got to register for a digital wallet, you got to give all this personal information, you got gas fees, you got all this conversion, all these steps that as this begins to tip, that will hopefully all converge and become much more useful. But as a brand, we got to get deeper into it and really understand kind of the intricacies and why people are doing it. And we're starting to really, you know, delve into the space. So.
Will I be able to, in the future, buy a token that allows me to perform in the Pepsi halftime Super Bowl show?
Depends how you can sing.
I can't sing for shit.
If you can't sing for shit, then maybe not. But I would say, you know, that idea of what I love is the connection to real life experiences. When you think of the idea of brands and how people connect to different brands, and I think as you were saying, the different affinities people have, sports, music, entertainment, you know, the utility that it gets in your everyday life. There's a ton of possibilities as we look at kind of how we would want to connect with consumers in this space. And so I think we're trying to be really, you know, think about it the right way and not just rush in and just say, hey, here's an NFT, look, we did one, but really strategically figure out what's kind of the long play, you know, how do we want to get into space authentically? How do we want to really just 1, 2, 3 and kind of step into it? Because I think, to your point, while there of course is money to be made and there's the whole transactional piece, you know, as far as brand building as well, that's another big benefit to us as well, beyond kind of the financial, you know, piece as well. When you look at the scale, that's actually even more beneficial to us in the near term.
Given that both of you were in the marketing game, I think, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure about this, when social, Web 2 happened, 2006, 7, 5, 8, do you have more confidence that you can enter the space more authentically because you learned through the trials and tribulations of that hard transition from Web 1 to Web 2, traditional media to social? Do you feel the companies of your size have more confidence of, hey, this is what happened and we misplayed social if we look back at 6 and 7? Do you feel that gives you a leg up to play 3 better than 2?
You know, I think just to answer your question too, I look at the parallels from, I remember when the big first, you know, Web 2.0 happened and all this, and just, there were a lot of executives and people in the company who are like, they're saying something bad about us on Facebook. So we really, it's like, you clearly don't get it, right? So it's how you educate, when you think of the disruption that's happened and how quickly, the fact that TikTok is only a few years old, the fact that all these things are coming so quickly, I think there's an acknowledgement from a lot of the big companies like ours that, shit, we don't know, but we know this is going to be a thing, so let's hunker down, let's get our legal team, our finance team, how the hell do we convert Ethereum, you know, like all of that stuff that just big companies have to wrestle with, but I think there's a lot more willingness to kind of dive in than I'd say some of the early days stuff.
Given that it's Pepsi and Budweiser, Super Bowl, World Cup, halftime show, how is this framework going to affect the way you look at sponsorships and maybe even more importantly, how you look at the humans that you do brand deals with?
I think even in the, as you're saying, the deal structure piece of it all as well, in the back end. Right now, as you look at brands, if we're making a TV commercial, if we're signing someone, it's a transactional one way. I'm going to pay person X, they're going to provide Y service, we're going to both hopefully benefit in that regard. This is a game changer to a partnership where it's like, hey, we can both come out of this, both building equity, making money, doing, positive things for consumers, all in the same way if we build it correctly together. So I do think there's going to be a future where, it's more of a symbiotic relationship as we get to partners and things like that.
What about for a lot of people in this audience who are smaller artists or entrepreneurs? Do you feel like this is a time where, as brands try to enter and look for authenticity or try to find their way, that for people here that may dream to do business with brands of this size because they have the knowledge and the context for the space, is this an opportune time for them to dream and kind of try to reach out and do things? Or is because it's new, there's a little bit more fear with big brand and a smaller entrepreneur artist might be a liability? Is it a pro or is it a con?
Yeah, I would just say I completely agree. The only thing I would add is that it's, as you think about a big brand sitting in this space, it's also often difficult because there's so many new entrants coming in every day to know 10 years from now who's left standing, right? Who are the real, we saw this recently with AR, when that was the new hot shit everyone was doing. It's like, hey, we can do a thing, and it's like, some can do it better than others, some might not, and so that's the thing that's, I think, because it's so early days, a little difficult, but I do believe, to your point, seeing all the energy, the creativity coming in from all the different projects, all the different creators is really inspiring as a brand. It's something we're definitely looking into.
What about on a personal level? Like, did you need to figure it out? Did you give away your seed phrase to somebody by accident? Like, on a personal level, where are you on your journeys?
I'll give you that. So I'm playing the penny slots right now, as I call it, just kind of getting my feet wet in the space. And definitely, as I shared earlier, it was a big learning even just to set up the wallet and get in there and get in there and figure out which projects. There are some where I got burned. I've been on a look-alike of some stupid shit that I thought was going to be really, as you get in there, you go through it all. But it's actually, to me, that's the most valuable learning. Putting myself in consumer shoes and trying to really empathize with what is really happening in the space, seeing the trends, and it's been awesome. I'm continuing to get into it now.
I think your take there is really right. It's a lot easier for us to take photos to tell the world what we want them to know. If we know what you're buying, it's a dramatically real indicator to what you're about. And I actually think that's why we had that convo, and I think you're right. What do you feel when you see this energy? What's as you've been taking in kind of just being here, just even watching, for me, I'll jump in where I'm going with that question. As I sit here and I'm doing this interview, this is exactly what I felt like in 2006 and 2007 at South by Southwest about web, because it was almost like there was a lot of curiosity and optimism in the room, because I know you guys focus on the consumer. And I think the point you made that I think a lot of people should hear is, when you have the responsibility that you two have in running brands of this size, you do have to care about scale. When you see the kernel of the future in all these pretty faces, what comes to mind as, oh shit, I need to take this back home and we really need to think about this, that, or the other thing? Anything stand out?
I'd say excitement, hope, just the energy, just walking around the floor, seeing, hearing conversations, meeting folks. The energy is unlike anything else, right? And the fact that it is people who are in, are all in, right? It's just not like a hobby, right? For all of you in this room, and many of you are creators who were really, invested in this. And I think it's inspiring to see as a big company knowing this is a space where we're going to continue to start to play and just to see this is for the future,
I think in wrapping up, the thing that really stands out for me in the difference of Web 2 and Web 3 with brands is in Web 2, everyone in the audience was building on top of communication, not consumerization, right? So it was about how we communicated. So when brands came in, there was a lot of pushback because it was corporate, it was business. In this space, unless you're a hypocrite, I think we can all agree, which I think is a vulnerability for our space right now, way too much energy is about the financial part. If you look very carefully, people are, 80% of the fuckers in this space right now are day trading digital assets. And so, what's interesting, there's nothing wrong with that. I love a good garage sale. But what it does is actually gives brands subconscious more room to do things, because most people realize they're having a lot of business DNA in what they're doing as well. And if brands play it right, they can benefit from that a lot more than what happened in '06 when it was a completely different conversation. And I think that lends itself to a lot of opportunity for YouTube, but very honestly, I think that lends itself to a huge opportunity to all of you. And even though Todd and Richard kind of painted a very true picture to you, which I appreciated, of like how big of a leap that has to be for you to JV with a brand of this size, much like I've told you in the content about getting to influencers on DM, I still believe that this is so hot and there's so much momentum that there's somebody who literally launched a project 3 weeks ago that can make a JV with a national bubblegum brand or a cereal brand. And I hope this gave you some insight to how they're thinking, which is why I wanted to do this panel, to just give a little context. And I hope everybody here has a tremendous time this week. And I hope everybody follows my Twitter tonight, because I'm throwing a secret wine party, which I haven't done in a decade. I've got a fuckload of wine. I have no idea where I'm doing it. And as soon as I find a spot, I'm tweeting it out. So I hope I see every one of you fucking people tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. YouTube watcher, what's up? It's Garyvee. First of all, thank you so much. I hope you're doing super well during these times. I also want to ask you, please subscribe, because my commitment and exploration of YouTube is about to explode. Stories, polls, more content, more engagement, more surprise and delight. This is the time to subscribe. I hope you consider it, and I hope I see you soon.